But joining me now to break all of this news down is our panel of experts for today. I'm pleased to welcome to the show Ambassador Dani Ayalon, Chairman of Silver Road Capital Group, and Brigadier General in the Reserves, Relik Shafir, a former Air Force Base commander. Thank you both so much for joining.
Thank you.
Relik, I'd like to get your thoughts on Mladenow's comment just now on the tunnel system in Gaza. I mean, it's no secret that, the underground network Hamas has built is vastly larger than most of us probably expected, but a decade to completely destroy? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's probable because some of the tunnels are, let's say, under houses, hospitals, logistics centers, etc. So while dismantling them, what does it mean? Is it blowing them up? Is it filling them with cement? So it really depends on what you mean by dismantling the tunnels. That is still a question that needs to be decided. And not only that, but who decides it? The same thing goes for the disarming. Who decides when the disarming is enough, when the proof is enough, and who mans the inspection boards, etc. These are all questions that are still in front of us.
And do you view this dismantling of the tunnels as an obstacle for Hamas disarmament, or could really anything virtually be an obstacle considering the terror group's unwillingness to follow through?
Well, not so much. It really depends on what the United States decides that it is enough. So the arbitration, or I would say the jury deliberation, is by President Trump rather than by the Israeli Prime Minister. So we will be able to maneuver left and right, but the ultimate decision is really with the U.S. President.
Interesting. And Ambassador Ayalon, I'd like to bring you into this conversation. Do you agree with Relik's comment? It's kind of a conundrum when you think about it, that the final say belongs to a president sitting halfway across the world who essentially most of his ideas that have been brought forward have not been successfully implemented. So Ambassador Ayalon, what do you make of those comments?
Yes, I completely agree with Brigadier General Shafir, Relik. But I would like to inject here maybe a political angle. Certainly Israel is very much right in the demand that it will be sequential. That means first and foremost, Hamas has to disarm, including, of course, the elimination of the tunnels, and only then can Israel withdraw. But I would say that Israel's position has been weakened because Netanyahu and the government, they were negotiating about this 15-point agreement. And not only that, this Board of Peace accepted Israel's demand, because in the beginning, the 15 points were that the disarmament of Hamas and the disengagement or the withdrawal of the IDF would be simultaneously, side by side. Israel objected, and then immediately the Board of Peace corrected it to say that first will the Hamas disarm. Once this has been accepted, it will be very much difficult for Israel to reject it all part and parcel. There is another point there, which is in the 15th point of the agreement. It's leading into a Palestinian state. I don't see how this government can accept such a thing, especially in this very sensitive political time of elections.
Mm-hmm. And, it's clearly to you and I and Relik and even some of our viewers, it's no surprise that the current Israeli cabinet has obviously rejected this proposal. But I want to ask you, Ambassador, about the format of this rejection. And in general, what do you make of the rift between Netanyahu and Trump? I ask this because, despite the fact that relations between countries, especially between Israel and the U.S., as we've seen, they aren't always smooth sailing, agreement on every issue, but such a public display and an announcement by Netanyahu, what does that signal to Washington regarding this relationship? Could there maybe have been a conversation behind closed doors, or was this well thought out from the Prime Minister?
Well, this is the thing, actually this relationship between countries are very much reflected by personal relationship at the top, although they do not dictate, because let's say the national and security interests are quite large and should be more important than personal relationship, and usually they are. But in this case, when you have two dominant leaders and that are actually doing a lot of the things on their own without too much staff work, it is very much very important. I would say that there is a difference between the first Trump term and the term now, because in the first Trump term, I think that Netanyahu and Trump worked very much hand in hand, and this is why they achieved the Abraham Accords with the 4 or 5 Arab countries. The Jerusalem, the embassy of the United States was moved to Jerusalem. The United States accepted and recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. So this was very, very well planned and executed. Now we see a little bit cracks in this system. We see that there was a lot of, I wouldn't want to say misunderstanding, but certainly different points of views regarding Iran, regarding the nuclear in Iran, regarding the sequence. Israel was adamant that first and foremost the nuclear issue should be accepted by Iran before the Hormuz. And certainly Israel was willing to continue with the attacks on Iran to make sure that they are really put back for years and more than that. And the United States was stopping Israel. The United States also was the one to dictate the ceasefire agreement in Lebanon, and the same thing in Gaza. So it is very much up to the two leaders to really chart a road ahead. Now, will Trump play ball with Netanyahu? Remains to be seen, because there are so many other actors that have become quite strong and influential in Washington, including Erdogan from Turkey, Ben Salman from Saudi Arabia, and few other Middle Eastern leadership, not in the least the Emir of Qatar, which is not a friend.
It's interesting that you mention the Qataris, the Turkish, because there is another topic that I wanted to dive into, which is the Turkish and Qatari involvement in the international stabilization force that is supposed to come in and sort of, take care of the security situation inside of the Gaza Strip. Now, if you recall, it was a bit of a hassle to sort of get countries to be on board, and Turkey and Qatar now saying that they would be involved. That's clearly not good for the state of Israel. That's been addressed by many Israeli officials. It would not be for Israel's best security interest to bring in the Qataris and the Turkish, but there is this element here of connection to Hamas. There could be an element of success when you bring in these foreign forces. So, Relik, I'm curious, do you think that potentially the Turkish and Qatari involvement in this stabilization force could potentially make things worse for Israel, allow Hamas to continue avoiding disarmament, or could there actually be a solution that you see here?
You know that us Israelis have not offered any solution to the Gaza problem. I think we share the fact that this is for internal political reasons. This is a time to remind us again of Henry Kissinger's words that Israel does not have a foreign policy, only internal policy. And this would strike me as being true again. But having said that, the latitude that Israel has in decision-making is pretty small at this time, with Israel having no leverage, as it has not created an alternative that could be brought forward. So I think Miladanov's words that Israel will be judged by its actions rather than words is probably best describes what is happening. That is, Israel has stopped the fire or the killings in Gaza for about a week by now, and rebuilding Gaza could start with the areas which Israel controls, which means rehabilitation in areas that Israel controls. So this is kind of I would say, an own goal in that Israel cannot deflect the suggestion that the rebuilding starts where Israel is controlling the area, while Hamas is not disarmed yet in the area it controls on the other side. So these are all matters that could be resolved with Netanyahu having to face elections coming up, but actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely. And you're very right in saying that the upcoming elections come October could potentially change everything going on the ground in Gaza. Ambassador Ayalon, I want to throw the question back to you, but maybe from a diplomatic perspective when it comes to Israel. And I was going to say the relations with the Qataris and the Turkish, but I guess you could say the lack thereof. From a diplomatic standpoint, if they were to get involved with the rebuilding of Gaza, could this be a potential diplomatic, arrangement that could be on the horizon? After years and years of hostile relations, could there be a positive to come out of this, or is Israel right in saying that this could be bad news?
Israel is very right, because if you look at the character of the regimes, both in Turkey and Qatar, their ideology is a Hamas ideology. There is no difference between Erdogan and Hamas or Qatar and Hamas. And we know that they are the best or the staunchest supporters of Hamas, unfortunately. Both Turkey and Qatar are agitators, whether it's among Israeli Arabs, whether it's among Palestinians, whether it is revolving the Temple Mount, where the Turkish and Qatars are spewing and sending messages as if Israel is trying to get the control. And they are not impartial, objective force. So I don't think that Israel can afford or should accept them in the Gaza Strip, because they will play ball with Hamas, and that would be against Israeli interests.
And there's certainly no doubt that it's very much on the timetable, very time sensitive, this issue. Gentlemen, with the time that we have left, we mentioned Iran a little bit, and I do want to go back to it because a Wall Street Journal report claiming that Trump is ready to declare victory over Iran. Now, his reasoning, according to this report, essentially is that the president is more concerned with the Strait of Hormuz and allowing free shipping to go through, but also less concerned with the nuclear issue, meaning if a deal was struck with, whether it be with Oman or not, regarding the Strait of Hormuz, that Trump would consider that a victory. And his reasoning, reportedly, is that the military campaign has achieved the majority of its goals and that the nuclear program has been damaged enough for now to declare victory. Relik, what do you think of that? Do you agree?
I think that we should divide the periods of negotiations into two, up to November 3rd, I think is the date, and after that. Up to that time, President Trump will be busy with his internal political elections coming up. And after that, he's actually got a free hand for the next 2 years of his term. And I don't think he's going to swallow the insults or the refutations by Iran, because this will describe his tenure, and he will not want to be remembered as somebody who caved into Iran. So it's also a question of getting the weapons right, getting the tactics right for a final blow on Iran. So I think even though the pressures on the United States from the countries around the straits kind of puts him in a dire strait mode, but he cannot allow himself to come out as a loser. And so I think the November, come November time, we will see a different United States tactics in the area.
Actually, I really liked your Dire Straits pun that you threw in there. But Relik, wouldn't you say that the regime could actually use this quote unquote, Trump's satisfaction, I guess, with the war thus far? Wouldn't they use that as this sort of leeway, which Tehran is already doing? They're already demanding of the United States sanctions relief and compensation for wartime damages. The regime will use this period to push back at the United States. So if you could try and, step into the shoes of President Trump, which none of us can actually do, what do you think is the strategy here from a military perspective to let the regime think that America has had enough?
Yes, I think this is exactly it. And remember, the U.S. has a Trump card following November, and it'll throw in everything they have and put a lot of pressure, bring out as many anti-missile batteries as they can from other theaters, the Pacifics and Europe, and try to have a final blow on Iran, hoping that the economic strangling will take an effect within that time, or else, as they say, all hell will break loose. Trump cannot escape this, otherwise his legacy will be tarnished.
Mm-hmm. And Ambassador, do you agree with Relik, or in general, do you think that Trump's recent, this, I guess it hasn't been a declaration as of yet. It's been a report. It's been reported by the Wall Street Journal. Trump's satisfaction with the war in Iran from a diplomatic perspective. Do you think that that was a positive move? Do you think that this could eventually harm the United States?
The short answer is yes. I think it will harm the United States. Objectively and facts on the ground, the United States is not anywhere near victory over Iran. And if indeed the president will declare victory, I think that would be quite gratuitous, and this will certainly diminish American exertion or image of power, not only in the Middle East, but also around the world. Just think of China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine. I think this would be a big mistake. I do understand, of course, the political expediencies for the president, but still, I believe that the U.S. interests and the region's interests and the world's interests should trump political interests.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the Gulf states, when we discuss this, the progression of the war with Iran, the United States could supposedly stop operations moving forward. What does this say for the Gulf countries? Are they happy? Are they dissatisfied? Where do they stand when it comes to Iran at this point in time, Ambassador?
I think they're very dissatisfied. I think they're in a panic. Hence, we see a new kind of political alliances. Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, their pact now is exactly because of the weakness that the United States is showing. And for Iran, their intransigence, their boldness, doesn't end. And actually, I believe at the end of the day, whether it's before or after November Day, we will see a resumption of American operations, because the Iranians will not stop, and they will overplay their hands as they think they are the winners so far.
Right. Well, it's no surprise that the regime is acting in this way. We can't really predict where President Trump is going to go with this. But as Relik rightfully mentions, November 3rd, and the cards will probably be changing. Ambassador Ayalon, Brigadier General Shafir, thank you both so much for joining us on ILTV on the Hour.
Thank you, Deborah.